Welcome back to the Chattable podcast, where we learn real American English in real life and have fun and be proud.
It is fantastic to be back here with you.
Yeah, it really is. And today we are thrilled to talk about some fantastic everyday English phrases inspired by the incredible athletes at the Winter Olympics.
That's right. I mean, we often watch the games for the medals or, the world records. But if you actually really listen to the commentary, the athlete interviews, and the way the fans describe the action, you find this absolute goldmine of language.
It's so true. And I think the best part is you don't need to be able to do a triple axel or ski down a mountain at 80 miles an hour to use these words.
Right.
These are phrases that have migrated from the snow and ice right into our cubicles, our living rooms, and our difficult conversations.
Exactly. Sports language has this way of bleeding into everyday life because sports are they're heightened versions of human experience.
Yeah.
You have struggle, victory, patience. So in this episode, we are going to break down 3 specific expressions that are popping up everywhere around the games.
We have 3 really juicy ones on the list today. We've got slipping and sliding, being hailed for, and stick around.
I love this selection. They really cover the full spectrum. You've got the messy beginning, the triumphant middle, and then the resilient end.
Perfect way to frame it. So let's jump right into the first one. Slipping and sliding. Just saying it feels, kinetic.
It does. It has a very specific mouthfeel. But before we get into the actual linguistics, we have to look at the source material we have here on the American speedskater, Jordan Stolz.
Right. Now, Jordan Stolz is a machine. He's incredible. But the articles provided don't start with him standing on the podium. They start way back at the beginning.
And that context is absolutely crucial. The text describes the very first time he stepped onto the ice as a kid. And let me tell you, it wasn't pretty.
I think the phrase Bambi on ice comes to mind.
Essentially, yes. The source material paints this incredibly vivid picture. You have a kid, maybe 5 years old, feet strapped into these really thin blades, stepping onto a surface with 0 friction.
Yeah.
He wasn't skating. He was losing his balance. His legs are going wide. His arms are windmilling. He was literally slipping and sliding all over the place.
It's such a relatable image because we have all been there. I mean, I remember the first time I tried to skate, I spent way more time on my butt than on my feet.
Oh, for sure. Same here.
But let's analyze the phrase itself. Why do we say slipping and sliding? Why not just slipping? Or just sliding? Why both?
Well, this is where we get into the sound symbolism of English.
Yeah.
We love these twin words, but more importantly, we have to talk about the SL sound.
ESL sound.
Like SL.
Yeah, linguists actually call these phones themes. In English, words that start with SL often relate to downward movement, friction, or wetness. Just think about it. Slide, sleb, slesh,
Sleet.
sleet, sludge, sludge, slow.
Slime, sled, sleep. Exactly. It's a very specific cluster. It doesn't have a hard stop like a K or a T sound. It flows. It feels liquid. So when you put slipping and sliding together, you are creating a phrase that linguistically mimics the action itself.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
It feels continuous, you know? It feels uncontrolled.
It's interesting you mentioned uncontrolled. Is there an actual difference between a slip and a slide?
That is a great question. In a vacuum, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
A slip is usually an accident. You don't mean to slip. You slip on a banana peel.
Right.
But a slide can be intentional, like a baseball player sliding into home base.
Or a kid going down a playground slide.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But when you combine them into slipping and sliding, you are totally removing the intentionality. You are describing a state of chaos where you are just fighting for traction. You're stuck in that messy middle ground between falling down and staying up.
So, in a literal sense, we'd use this for bad road conditions or messy floors.
Yes. The source lists ice, obviously, but also mud or a freshly mopped floor. If you walk into a supermarket and the floor is wet, you aren't walking confidently. You are doing that weird wide-legged shuffle.
Trying not to fall.
Yeah, you are slipping and sliding.
Which brings us to the sensory details. It implies a lack of friction, a total loss of control. But we aren't here just to talk about weather reports or wet floors. We are here to talk about real life.
Correct. The metaphor is where this phrase really earns its keep in everyday conversation.
So how do we take slipping and sliding from the ice rink to the office?
Well, think about that feeling of Jordan Stolz as a beginner. He didn't know the technique yet. He couldn't find his edge. In a professional or personal context, slipping and sliding means you are struggling to get a grip on a new situation.
It's the learning curve.
It is the steep part of the learning curve. But there is a positive nuance here that I really don't want to miss. The text implies that even though Stolz was slipping and sliding,
He was still moving.
he was still moving.
That's a really good point. If he had just fallen down and stayed down, he wouldn't be slipping and sliding. He'd just be lying there.
Exactly. Slipping and sliding implies activity. It implies effort. It describes making clumsy mistakes, yes, but it implies you are keeping at it. You're trying to find your footing.
So if I start a new job and I don't know how to use the weird new photocopier and I delete a master file by mistake.
You are slipping and sliding. You are in the messy middle, and that is okay. It is a permissive phrase. It validates the struggle of the beginner.
I want to make sure you listeners know exactly when to use this, though, because you probably shouldn't use it in a highly formal presentation to your CEO, right? Like, hey, boss, I'm slipping and sliding on this multi-million-dollar account.
I would definitely advise against that, yes. It sounds a bit too chaotic for a boardroom. It's more colloquial. It's something you say to a colleague or a friend to explain a chaotic situation.
Let's build a scenario. I want to really paint a picture here. Let's go back to the weather for a second, because that is the most common literal usage, and then we can pivot.
Okay, set the scene.
It's February. You are in Chicago, or maybe Boston,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe parts of Europe that get heavy snow. It's the very first real snowstorm of the year.
The one everyone forgets how to drive in.
Exactly. You wake up, you look out the window, and it's just white. The plows haven't come by yet. You see tire tracks weaving all over the road.
It's dangerous.
And you have to call your boss to say you're going to be late. Now, you could just say the roads are bad, but that's boring. That's flat.
And it might not get you the sympathy you actually need.
Right. You want to justify your lateness. You want to paint a scene of absolute chaos. So you get on the phone and say, I'm going to be a little late to work today. The plows haven't come by, and cars are just slipping and sliding all over the neighborhood.
See that as a much stronger sentence.
Why? What does that actually do to the listener's brain?
It creates a video in their mind. The roads are bad is a static image.
Mm-hmm.
But cars are slipping and sliding is an action movie. They can visualize the fishtailing. They can hear the tires spinning. It triggers empathy because nobody wants to be in that car.
It suggests that the environment is hostile.
And notice the continuous grammar again. Are slipping and sliding. It's happening right now. It suggests that if you were to drive out there, you would join that chaos.
So it's a perfectly valid excuse. It paints a chaotic picture that completely justifies the delay.
Precisely.
Okay, so we have the struggle. We have the chaotic beginning where you can't get a grip. But let's say you keep going. Let's say Jordan Stolz stops slipping, finds his edge, and starts winning.
That takes us to a very different kind of language. We move from the language of struggle to the language of high praise.
Which brings us to phrase number 2, being hailed for.
Being hailed for. It sounds significant, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds grand. You don't hail someone for taking out the trash.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
And understand why we need to look at the history of the word hail. The notes here on the etymology are fascinating.
Let's unpack it. Because when I think of hail, I think of 2 things. Frozen rain or a taxi cab.
And believe it or not, the taxi cab is the closest link to the original meaning. Historically, to hail someone simply meant to greet them loudly or to call out to them from a distance. Think of 2 ships passing in the ocean.
Oh, like, hail fellow, well met.
Exactly. Or, I hailed the ship. It was purely functional. It was just about getting attention.
So how did we get from shouting, hey you, at a ship to, you are the greatest athlete of all time?
It's a classic case of linguistic evolution. Over centuries, the idea of calling out to someone shifted. It went from just getting their attention to shouting their praises. It morphed into a public declaration of approval.
So it's not just a whisper, it implies real volume.
It implies a broadcast. When we say someone is hailed, we mean they are being enthusiastically cheered for or publicly celebrated.
Let's go back to Jordan Stolz. He went from the kid slipping on the ice to the man on the podium. And the source says he is now hailed as one of the best speed skaters in the sport.
And there is a very subtle but important mechanic happening here. If I say, I think Jordan Stolz is the best, that is my opinion. I am just one person.
Right, it's subjective.
But if I say he is hailed as the best, I am removing myself from the equation entirely. I am implying that there is a consensus.
It's the people are saying of high praise.
Exactly. It implies that the media, the fans, the coaches, the entire community has agreed on this. It suggests a universal truth rather than a personal opinion.
That carries so much more weight.
It does. It validates the success as something objective.
But where are we most likely to hear this? Because I don't think I've ever walked into my kitchen and hailed my partner for making toast.
If you did, they would probably be very confused. This is media language that has trickled down. You hear it in the news constantly. The firefighter is being hailed as a hero. The new breakthrough drug is being hailed for its potential to cure. Or the director is being hailed for her vision.
Got it. It's reserved for heroes, masterpieces, and breakthroughs.
Generally, yes. It is a phrase of high praise and major recognition. It elevates the subject.
And here is the challenge for our listeners. How do we use this in real life without sounding like a news anchor? Can we use this in the office?
You absolutely can, but you have to use it correctly. You use it to describe other people's reactions to a success.
Okay, let's build a scenario. The office hero.
I like it. Let's hear it.
So imagine a high-stress environment. The team is facing a massive deadline. The client is angry, the software is crashing, everyone is panicking. It is a total disaster.
We have all been in that meeting.
We really have. And then one person steps up. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah doesn't panic. She stays late. She rewrites the code. She soothes the client. She organizes the files. She single-handedly saves the project.
Sarah is the MVP.
Sarah is absolutely the MVP. Now, fast forward to the next day. The crisis is over. You are standing at the coffee machine with a friend who wasn't there. You want to convey not just what Sarah did, but the impact of what she did.
You want to show the social response.
Right. You don't just say, Sarah did a good job. That's too small.
That sounds like a standard performance review.
Exactly. You say, did you hear? Sarah is being hailed for saving that client account.
And then maybe you add the result. The boss just gave her a huge bonus.
She is being hailed for it. What does that tell the listener about the office culture that day?
It tells them that Sarah's the main character. It tells them that everyone is talking about it. It implies that the boss, the team, maybe even the client, are all singing her praises.
I want to look at the grammar again for a second. Is being hailed. It's passive voice.
It is.
Usually, English teachers tell us to avoid passive voice. Don't say, the ball was thrown. Say, John threw the ball. Why do we use it here?
Because in this case, the passive voice is actually more powerful. If I say the boss hailed Sarah, that is great,
Okay.
but it limits the praise to one single person.
It's just the boss.
Right. But Sarah is being hailed leaves the who open. It implies that everyone is doing it. It feels limitless. It places Sarah at the center of a circle of applause rather than just a one-on-one interaction.
It emphasizes the collective nature of the praise.
Exactly. It makes her status feel elevated.
So recap. Slipping and sliding is the messy beginning. Being hailed for is the public victory. But life isn't always a victory, is it?
No. And sports certainly aren't. For every gold medal, there are dozens of athletes who go home empty-handed.
And that brings us to our third phrase. And honestly, I think this might be the most important one because it reveals character. The phrase is stick around.
Stick around. It's so simple. 2 little one-syllable words.
But there is a lot of glue in those words. Let's break it down linguistically first.
Sure. We have the verb stick.
Which means to adhere, like a snicker, like tape.
It implies a bond. If something sticks, it doesn't move easily. And then we have the particle around.
Which is pretty vague. Around just means in the vicinity.
So when you put them together into a phrasal verb, stick around means to remain in the place you are, to stay put. But it's softer than just stay. Stay is a command. Stick around is a state of being.
It sounds casual. I'll stick around.
It does. But let's look at the context from the Winter Olympics to see how this casual phrase can actually be quite profound. We're looking at the story of Ilya Malinin.
Now, Ilya is an American figure skater, incredible talent, the quad god, they call him.
Yeah.
But in this specific instance at the Games, things didn't go according to plan.
No, they didn't. He had a tough time. He fell. He made mistakes. He didn't make the podium. He didn't get the medal he had been dreaming of.
That has to be gut-wrenching. You are on the world stage, millions of people watching, and you fail. The instinct must be to just disappear.
Absolutely. That is the classic flight response. You want to pack your bags, go back to the hotel, turn off your phone, and fly home. You want to escape the scene of the pain.
But the source tells us he didn't do that.
He did the exact opposite. Instead of packing his bags and leaving, he stuck around for the rest of the games to joyfully cheer on his teammates.
He stuck around.
He remained. He occupied the space. And that gives the phrase a huge amount of emotional weight in this context.
It changes the meaning from just loitering to actual endurance.
It does. In this case, stick around implies resilience. It contrasts leaving, which is quitting or escaping, with sticking around, which implies loyalty. It says, I am going to support this situation even though it hurts me personally.
That is a true character test. Sticking around when you are winning is easy. Sticking around when you lost, that's hard.
It shows that he values the team more than his own ego in that moment.
And this is key for you listeners, you don't need to be a tragic hero to use this phrase.
No, please don't save this phrase only for your darkest moments.
It's one of the most common casual phrases in American English.
It is. It's basically the glue of social interaction.
When do we typically use it?
Usually we use it to ask someone to stay in a location for a little while longer, typically after a main event has finished.
The after is the important part.
Yes. You don't ask someone to stick around for the meeting they are required to attend.
Yeah.
You ask them to stick around after the meeting is adjourned.
It implies a transition from formal to informal, or from mandatory to voluntary.
Exactly. It signals a shift in the vibe.
Let's build a scenario here. The after party.
Ah, the classic social dilemma.
So you are hosting a birthday party at your apartment. It's been a great night.
Yeah.
Music, cake, laughter. But now it's 1:00 a.m.
The energy is dipping.
People are putting on their coats. They are calling their rides. The party is officially over.
And you look at your kitchen.
It is a disaster zone. Pizza crusts, empty cans, sticky spots on the counter, and you really, really don't want to face that alone.
You need a wingman. You need an ally.
So you look at your best friend who is also reaching for their coat. You want to ask them to stay, but you don't want to be demanding. You can't order them to clean your house.
That would be pretty rude.
So you use the phrase. You say, hey, do you mind sticking around for another 20 minutes?
And then you add the sweetener to help me eat this leftover pizza and clean up the kitchen.
Why does stick around work so well here?
Because it sounds low pressure. Do you mind sticking around? Suggests, casually lingering. It implies that you enjoy their company.
Yeah.
It reframes the labor of cleaning as hanging out.
It implies closeness. You wouldn't ask a stranger to stick around.
No. Stick around implies you are in the inner circle. It says, the public event is over, but I want you here for the private aftermath.
And it suggests a time limit. Stick around rarely means forever.
Right. It's for a bit. It's temporary. Stick around until the traffic dies down. Stick around for one more drink. It extends the connection without demanding a permanent commitment.
I really like that connection to the Ilya Malinin story. Whether it is supporting a teammate at the Olympics or supporting a friend with a dirty kitchen, sticking around is about presence.
It is about choosing to be present when you don't technically have to be.
We have covered some serious ground today in this podcast. We started on the ice, went to the boardroom, and ended up in a messy kitchen.
That is the journey of language.
Let's do a quick review to make sure these concepts are locked in, because we want you listeners to actually use these this week.
Let's recap.
First up, slipping and sliding.
That is the messy struggle, the learning process. It's the visual of losing balance but keeping your momentum. Use it when things are chaotic, but you are working through it. Like, I'm slipping and sliding through this new software update.
Second, being hailed for.
The public celebration, the
Yeah.
moment of success. It's when the group consensus elevates someone. She is being hailed for her leadership. He is hailed as a genius. Remember, it's about collective praise, not just one person's opinion.
And finally, stick around.
The loyalty phrase, the act of staying put. Whether it is resilience in the face of defeat or just hanging out with a friend after the party dies down, it's about extending the connection.
You know, when we line them up, like that slipping and sliding, being hailed for, sticking around, they really do map out a life journey.
They do. Connect the dots for us.
Well, think about any big goal you have ever had. You almost always start by slipping and sliding. You are a beginner. You look foolish. You make mistakes.
The conscious and competent stage.
Exactly. But if you keep going, if you find your friction, eventually you might succeed. You might be hailed for your achievement. You get the medal. You get the bonus.
The summit.
But the real test of character is who sticks around. Who sticks around when you are slipping? And do you stick around for others when the party is over?
That is a beautiful way to look at it. These aren't just vocabulary words. They are chapters in a story.
So as we wrap up this episode, we want to leave you with the challenge, a little homework for your life.
We always like to give you something to provoke a thought.
Look at your life this week. Be honest with yourself. Where are you currently slipping and sliding?
Is there something new you are learning? Are you feeling that lack of friction? If you are, don't quit. Embrace the slide.
And on the flip side, look around your circle. Is there a situation where you need to stick around a bit longer? Maybe it's tough right now, maybe you weren't getting the results you want, but maybe sticking around is exactly what you need to do.
Resilience is often just the art of sticking around until the luck changes.
That is a great thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us for this podcast episode.
It has been a pleasure diving into this with you.
We hope you take these phrases and use them. Go slip and slide, get hailed for something amazing, and stick around with the people you love.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.